My name is Teresita Blanco, the Artsy sister, and today we're starting Saturnastra, Nalini, the Pied Piper. This is chapter 1, part 1, Idyl. I don't know how to pronounce that word. It's written in I format, so it's Nalini talking. I traveled and south to warmer regions. Eventually I found a tropical forest to my liking. I took time to examine the plant life. Never before had I seen such a wide variety of flowers. Technically speaking, I already know about the flowers, the plants, and the animals. However, I had yet to experience nature in the real world. The very first thing that delighted me about the flowers was their texture. Their petals felt soft and delicate to my touch. The first flower I plucked was a beautiful white lily. I removed its soft, delicate white petals one by one and I ate them. I felt its life essence inside me. I felt bad for killing the poor flower needlessly. I took its remains to a clearing in the woods. This clearing was around a wide, shallow lake. Upon closer inspection, I noticed that the center ran abruptly deep. In its crystalline water, harmless freshwater fishes used to prance about. I gave a water burial to the flower I slew. With disdain, a lake trout rose to the surface and ate the remains of the flower. The fish glared at me and said, "Don't you have any bread?" I dipped my head inside the water, and I returned his glare and a rude remark with my own. "I wasn't trying to feed you, stupid fish. I simply wanted to give a water burial to the flower I killed." The fish eyes seemed to sneer when he responded, "What a silly little girl you are." The fish departed afterwards. I took my head out of the water and took his words to heart. Indeed, I was acting rather stupid, getting worked up by the death of a flower. Even so, I was never able to pick a flower ever again. It got to such a point that I felt bad for stepping on the grass. I got over myself pretty quickly when I heard a melodious song. The song came from deeper in the forest. After walking for some hours, I discovered a lovely garden. The garden had a large variety of white flowers. Some of the more prominent flowers were roses, peonies, carnations, tulips, and Gemini daisies. Within this garden, about 20 or more elf little girls were playing. They were singing some of the most beautiful songs while braiding their hairs with flowers. To anyone else, it would appear as the most beautiful sight imaginable. However, I was still feeling bad about the flowers. Soon they would wither and die. All that their short life had amounted to was spent as hair ornaments. For some reason, I did not feel like approaching the maidens, despite the fact that they seemed harmless enough. Around sunset, I got bored of watching their games. I returned to my neck of the woods. I lay down on the grassy fields. Around me flew the shiny blue spores of the flowers. Something about the soil made the white flowers of this forest shimmer. Slowly, the warm wind flew over the river, causing ripples. The sounds of nature were soothing me to sleep. While I dozed off, I felt 2 tiny feet on my nose. When I opened my eyes, I saw a shiny golden child, very tiny. She could not have been taller than a few inches. Her wings were brownish with an all-black pattern like the Helioconius butterflies. She wore a dress made from white plumeria flowers. Each time she gave a tiny step, you could see the golden center of the flower petals. Her long brown hair was combed in a braid. I felt her bare foot work their way to my forehead. She still thought I was asleep, and when she was sitting on my forehead, she poked my closed eyelids and she asked, "Are you awake?" And she started poking your eyelids. "Are you awake?" You know that the spirits that they see you asleep and then they poke you and ask you, "Are you awake?"
I'm awake now.
"Not really," I said, stroking gently her tiny head with my pinky. She hugged my finger with her tiny hands and smiled. "I have been watching you for some time. You are not like the others who live in the forest," she said, petting my short white hair. "Thank you," I said naively. I added, "What's your name?" "My kind doesn't use names. We each know who we are, therefore we never need names. And you, do you have a name?" she asked with curiosity. "My name is not something you can pronounce," I said, closing my eyes again. I took out my flute and I played a tune. This tune was my name. While dozing off, I asked the tiny fairy, how am I to call you should I wish to see you again? I felt the fairy departing, and when I opened my eyes she was flying above me. In a soft melodious voice she said, my kind has the gift of song, and we each have our own melodies. I will teach you my own tune. If you play it, I will know you wish to see me, but be warned. The elves do not look too kindly upon our kind. It would anger them if you sing a fairy song. So yeah, the fairies and the elves, they don't get along. They don't get along in this neck of the woods. Time, bro?
It's
No, I mean over there.
9:18.
No, I mean how much time do I have in the
9 minutes 18 seconds.
The fairy sang her song, and from beneath my rose I took out my flute, my blue crystal flute. It was a gift that my mother had given me. I played her song. The echo created by my flute was felt across the forest. The deer, the owls, the elf fairies all stopped to listen. Every being was enthralled by its sweet melody. When I stopped playing, they went back to their nightly routines. The fairy departed after I finished playing her song. I found myself completely alone after she left. The wind had died a few hours later, and with it the sound of the forest. Even the water in the lake was perfectly still. For some odd reason, I felt as if the darkness of the forest was staring back at me. I felt a cold sweat run down my spine. I gathered my ropes around me and I entered the water. Should anything invisible attack me, it would be forced to make a sound inside the water. I waited inside the lake for what seemed like hours. My attention was distracted by a tiny frog swimming close to my face. Its sticky tiny legs got stuck on the tip of my nose. From the water, the tiny frog climbed to my forehead, and then it hopped back into the water. In a soft, tiny voice, he said, "What are you looking at, Ribbit?" Not able to speak, I responded without emitting a sound, like telepathy. "There's something in the woods." With curiosity, the frog gazed into the darkness. Confused, he said, "There is nothing there." "Are you certain? Then why did everything get so quiet?" I asked. "Stupid girl, afraid of the silence," said the frog, departing. A cold wind swept overhead, and the forest became alive again. With the regular nightly sounds returning, I felt myself safe. And for days, I felt tense whenever that strange, ominous silence came. Eventually, whenever the silence came, I would play my flute to beat back the silence, and for some reason, the music made me feel safe. And it took me half a year to get used to the strange, eerie silence that came by from time to time. I felt its calming presence soothing. After my first year in the forest, I knew the place like the back of my hand. I got to know better the other fairy creatures and their melodies. Aside from the fairies, there lived a newt, or water fairy, in the lake, 2 fauns and a playful nymph. The one I saw most often was the newt. She would rise to the surface of the water whenever no elves were nearby. Whenever she came, she said nothing. She simply stared at me with her big, wide blue eyes. For some reason, everyone in the forest both feared and hated the elves. They avoided them like they were the freaking plague. One day, I decided to have my first close encounter with an elf. The elf I decided to meet was a beautiful blonde maiden. She was only 2 years my senior. She had a very delicate frame and nimble limbs. Unlike most elves, she had beautiful emerald eyes. What I liked best about her was her beautiful singing voice, and her melody brought new life to the forest. Even her own kin used to admire her beautiful voice. The day that I resolved to meet the pretty girl was the day she wandered away from her peers. Judging by the conversation, they were playing some sort of hide-and-seek game. The pretty girl went to hide near the newt lake. Like lake. I saw her approach while hiding within it, and slowly I rose from the water. When my entire frame was shown, the girl turned her gaze towards me. Her shrill scream echoed across the forest, and I tried to calm her down. However, but before I spoke, the newt pulled me into the lake, tugging me by the ends of my ropes. I sank deeper into the water, and from its clear, hazy water, I saw the elves gathering around the lake. That was the first time I saw him. Time, bro?
5 minutes.
The entire group departed to allow him to pass. An elf dressed in pristine white robes entered the scene. His hair was pure white and his eyes blood red. His skin was so pale that it seemed like any sunlight had ever fallen upon him. The girl that I liked was clutching the ends of his robe tightly. She was crying and pointing towards the lake. The albino elf entered the water and he searched around. I felt magic gathering around him. Worried that he might fish us, the newt dragged me deeper into the water. The elf was relentless in his search. He sank his full frame beneath the water. Fearing that he might see us, I played my flute. Via his influence, the elf failed to see us beneath the water. Calmly, the elf left the water. He reassured his king that there was nothing to fear. The little girl was still not convinced. She left the forest quite shaken. When they departed, the newt carried me in her arms. She placed me outside the lake. Taking my hood off, she stroked my long silver hair. After sighing, she said angrily, "Stupid girl, don't the fairies tell you to stay away from the elves? They do not take kindly to outsiders. Even an elf from a different tribe would have seemed suspicious to them. You are either one of their own or the enemy." Time, bro?
3 minutes.
How do I meet them? Even if I turn into an elf, they will reject me, I said with disappointment. The newt kissed my forehead and started sinking back into the lake. Before she left, she said, "I'm sorry, honey, I just don't know." I pondered much on what the newt told me, and a week later the albino elf came along to the lake. When he came, it was the middle of the night during the silent period, and since all was quiet, I was able to hear his approach from miles away. I went to hide in a place where I felt the deepest silence. The elf sat before the lake, and he started to stare at its depths. He frowned with what grim thoughts passed through his head. He was certain that he had seen two beings hiding beneath the water. The more he pondered on it, the more he thought he was seeing things, and suddenly he started looking around, and like me, he became aware of the eerie silence. He rose from the ground with a start. His red eyes widened as he had seen a ghost, and what most frightened me was that he was gazing in the direction where I was hiding. He's like, "Oh, but this is where I am. Was he scared of? Is he scared of me? Is there something behind me?" Time, bro?
2 minutes, 30 seconds.
With rapid pace, he walked towards where I was hiding, and I simply lay there hiding within the bushes. Twice he passed by my hiding spot, and eventually the elf convinced himself that his mind was playing tricks on him again. Frankly, it did not humor me one bit that a native found this eerie silence unnatural, and when the sounds of the forest returned, we both relaxed our guard. For a couple of days, the albino elf would return to this spot during the quiet time, and his beautiful face was always furrowed with worries whenever he came. In time, he grew accustomed to the lack of sound during that period of the day. So, that silence is not normal. So, even for, elves who have been living there for, forever, the silence is a new thing. That it just goes very quiet. On the last day he visited, I played my flute to him, and via this effect, he started hearing the sounds of the forest during the quiet time. And I took a step further and bathed the forest with my hypnotic melody. And thanks to it, no else ever noticed the lack of noise just before and a bit after midnight. And realizing that this was the time that I would see him, I said to him, "Elf, can you hear my voice?" Time, bro?
1 minute.
The elf was not distraught. Apparently he was used to listening to voices at random times. Unperturbed, he said, "Yes, I can hear you." "I wish to live among you," I whispered back. Alright, well, let's just leave it over here, bro. Stop the recording.